Hi, welcome. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. And today we're interviewing a substitute teacher in the West Bloomfield School District named Mr. Gerald Jones. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Max. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Where are you a substitute teacher?
Well, last year I was a building substitute teacher at West Bloomfield Middle School.
What is it like to be a substitute teacher?
Well, I find it to be very thrilling and satisfactory for me. This is something that I always said I would do when I retired from my corporate life, and um, I'm doing it. I like having interaction with the students, helping them achieve their goals, and making sure that they're on the right track in terms of getting their academic studies.
Do you like being a substitute teacher better than being an actual teacher?
I do because I get to go to different classrooms with different subjects and interact with many more students.
What is your schedule like when at work?
When I was a uh, substitute teacher, it would depend on what the needs were for the school that day. So if they needed classroom coverage, I would go to classroom for the day. If hall monitoring was needed, I would do that. One of my main duties was lunchroom duty, overseeing all four lunchroom periods. So it varied by day.
When did you start subbing?
I started substitute teaching in 2022.
What was it like to apply to be a substitute teacher?
I had to go through an application process. The application was pretty extensive, so I had to fill out a lot of paperwork. I had to get fingerprinted. I have to have a criminal background check. And to be a substitute teacher in a West Bloomfield school district, you have to have either a teaching certificate or at least 60 college credit hours.
What was the interview process like, or was there an interview process?
There really wasn't an interview process, Max. I had to go to an orientation. The orientation was like a half a day orientation. Um, Most of the building subs or substitute teachers in a West Bloomfield district has to go through a outside company called Edustaff, and we had to just go through this orientation to learn more about their company and also what the requirements are for substitutes in the state of Michigan.
What inspired you to be a substitute teacher?
Well, I always wanted to give back in the form of students. Um, that was my goal when I retired from my corporate job. I did 33 years at General Motors in various positions. And I always wanted to help students attain their goals to make sure, as you're fully aware, I had you in a lot of my classes, that students stay on task and do the work. And our school is business and pleasure to have fun with your friends, but the number one goal is to get your studies, prepare you for the next level, which would be high school, and to develop great study habits.
What were the different roles you had when you were a in General Motors?
I was worked in various areas. I worked in dealer accounting. I worked in the finance department. I worked in the planning department. I worked in engineering standards. So I had a number of roles and responsibilities within General Motors. I've worked there 33 years.
When did you start your work career?
December of 1986. And I ended on December of 2019.
And from 2019 to 22, what did you find yourself doing? Were you subbing
Uh,
or did you have another job?
no, if you recall, that's when the pandemic hit. So, right after the first of the year around March. So I didn't have the opportunity to get into subbing then because of the pandemic. So when things kind of opened up and kids were going back to school, that's when I started subbing, which was in, I would say, 2022.
What is the easiest thing about your job?
That's a great question, Max.
Thank you.
I think the easiest thing for me is getting up in the morning and being excited to come to school and interact with not only the teachers and the administration, but also the students.
What is the hardest thing about your job?
The hardest thing about substitute teaching is when I have to discipline students for not following directions or not staying focused or on task of getting what the assignments are for that class for the 50-minute time period that they're there. And sometimes students do not want to cooperate and I or disrupt the class, and I don't like that aspect.
When you are teaching out of preference or experience, what age group do you like to sub in best?
Middle school. I love middle school. I've tried all levels. So I've tried elementary and I've tried high school. But I think for myself, Max, my best fit is middle school.
We talked about this a little bit before of how you're not going to be in one location next year of you can sign up and choose. Are you only going to pick middle school or do you plan to go wherever they have an opening?
Well, I plan to, my preference will be middle school. But I'm still debating on if I want to do elementary or high school. But I'm also registered in multiple districts now, and my preference would be middle school. I
What
think that's my best fit.
what are some of the other districts that you're going
Uh,
to be in?
Farmington Hills, Birmingham, Bloomfield schools, Berkeley schools, and Waterford school system.
What is your favorite thing about your job?
Interacting with the students, uh, I I think in a sense it keeps me young, and I like to hear the students' perspective, their reasoning, and I just like to have fun with them also. I'm the type of individual, Max, that likes to mix business with pleasure, and I kind of bring that kind of humor in the classroom, but I'm all about business, as you know.
What is your least favorite thing about your job?
Like I said before, I don't like disciplining students. I don't like when students do not cooperate and stay focused or are talking or do not listen to instructions.
What's the most stressful part of your job?
I would say that the most stressful part is dealing with all of the different students, the different personalities, the different goals of the students on a daily basis. Because as you know, I think it's 8 periods, I believe, including the advisories. and you have a lot of different students, a lot of different personalities coming in. And sometimes, Max, people have good days, people have bad days. Not only students, also adults.
What are some of the trainings you have to be a substitute teacher, or do you have any substitute teaching certifications?
Um, the training basically for me to be a sub was to go to the orientation within Edustaff before you actually become a sub. Also had some material I had to read and study up on that gave us pointers on how to be a great sub and how to relate to students.
Do you have any certifications for teaching, or
I don't have any certifications for teaching, Max. The requirements in the state of Michigan is that you, like I said earlier, you have to have at least 60 credit hours of college equivalent courses. So I have a undergraduate degree and a graduate degree, so I met those qualifications. But you can have a teaching certificate also.
do you plan to get one in the future?
No, I don't. I'm not gonna get one, Max. I've done a lot of schooling, and if meet the requirement with that, that's sufficient for me.
How long do you see yourself subbing for?
I see myself subbing for a while, Max, until I don't want to do it anymore. But you know, I see it going on for a while for me. Give you a time frame now, but you know, maybe another 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
What made you want to leave General Motors or retire from that?
Well, I thought it was time for me to retire. My wife had retired, and I had put in sufficient enough time, and I just wanted to get on to the next phase of my life. So I thought it was an appropriate time to move on to that next phase. And one of the next phases was to be a substitute teacher.
After subbing, do you have any plans in the future after subbing for yourself?
Um, Basically, I will, I'm a sports official also, Max. So I'll continue to officiate sports. I officiate basketball for high school, middle school, recreational basketball, football, baseball, girls fast pitch, softball. So I'll continue to do that. I enjoy doing that, and I probably move towards the beach where I'm at now, so permanently. So I like the beach and I like the sand. So that's what I'll probably do.
What are you working on right now?
Right now, Max, since May, since I've left school, I left the middle school in the middle of May. I've been in Virginia Beach and I'm not doing anything except going to the beach, enjoying the beach and sand and the weather here, and doing a little traveling, going to concerts, things of that nature. So if I can sum it up in one word, Max, relaxing.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are I like to travel. I like to go to concerts. I like to, like I said, just officiate. I'm involved in my fraternity, and that kind of sums it up for me.
What is your education?
Um, I went to Three Rivers High School, which is on the western part of the state of Michigan. I went to Eastern Michigan University, and I have a Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance. And I went to University of Detroit. That was before it's University of Detroit Mercy. So I'm kind of dating myself, Max. And I have a Master's of Business Administration and Finance.
When you were full-time at the middle school, what was your favorite part of the school or school culture and environment?
I liked the diversity of the students and the different backgrounds and how the majority of the time all the students meshed together and got along with each other. That was the thing I liked about it most. It was a diverse culture in the school.
Did you have a favorite room in the school?
No, I didn't.
What is it like to be a basketball referee?
Well, it's fun, but and exciting, but it's not as easy as people think. You know, it takes a lot of timing, coordination, and mechanics. It also takes patience, dealing with fans and coaches. So it's a lot of different aspects that go into it to be successful.
How often do you do basketball refing?
I do it very often. I not only do I do it at the high school level, I do it at the middle school level, and I do it at the recreational level. So quite often.
Where do you do it at?
I do it in Metro Detroit. So I do it, in different schools, mainly in Oakland County, in Metro Detroit.
How long have you been a basketball referee for?
30 years.
So a few years after you did join at GM, you started
Yeah.
basketball refing.
Yes.
How did you get into basketball refing? Or
Well, I went to a couple camps, because I had interest in it. I played basketball in high school. And, as I got older, I stopped playing and I still wanted to be involved with the sport. So I started officiating and I start going to different camps and just start getting different experience, refereeing different levels and, getting better at it.
what education is needed to be a basketball referee?
It's really not education, but you do have to pass um, background checks. You have to also pass exams. You have to go to rules meetings, um, things of that nature before you can officiate games.
What company do you sign up for and then they give you all the options to ref for? Or how does that
Yeah,
work?
it's called Michigan High School Athletic Association, MHSAA. It's with the state of Michigan. So you have to pay a registration fee for the sports that you're going to ref. And then you have to take, when that season is in play, you have to take, like I said, a rules meeting. You have to take an exam online. Once you pass all of that, then you're eligible to ref these sports. Now, you may ask me, how do I get the games? Within Michigan, you have to belong to a sports association, and they have a number of associations. And the associations have what they call assigners. The assigners work with high schools to get the games. Assigners work with the high school athletic directors, and the athletic directors give the assigners the games, and then the assigners gives you the games based upon your availability.
What association do you belong to?
I belong to Metro Detroit Athletic Association.
And do you get to pick the games you ref, or do they say, here, are you available? Go to this game?
That's how it works, Max. Here, are you available on this date and this time to do? They give you the option, Max, to accept them or decline them.
And majority of the time you're available when they give them to you.
Yeah, because within the actual system we use, you have the option to determine what dates you're available or block off the dates you're not available.
From prior conversations you and I have had off recording, how often are you in Detroit and then how often are you in Virginia? Or is there really not an exact timing?
Well, what I've done over the past year, Max, is I've kind of I usually am back in Michigan by the end of August because that's when school starts. And that's when actually I also referee football, high school football, and little league football, and that's when that starts too. So I usually come back to Michigan the end of August. Um, I stay there, and then I may come go back and forth between Michigan and Virginia, maybe a couple times, and then basketball starts in the beginning of December, and then that goes through, I would say, March. Yeah, March 1st, and then I'll come and spend a significant time in Virginia in the month of March. Then I'll come back 1st of April to do girls fast pitch softball and baseball umpiring. And then in the middle of May, I'm usually done officiating and I'm done substitute teaching it. And I come spend the summers in Virginia.
Do you do any sports reffing in Virginia?
I haven't yet.
Do you
I
plan?
had thought about it, Max, but I just wanted to enjoy the beach this summer. So, maybe next summer I may think about it, but we'll see what the future holds.
I had so much fun. Thank you for joining. Stick around after the recording.
Will do. It's been my pleasure, Max.